So I'm delighted to welcome Kay Merriman, one of the directors of Little Angels Childcare Group, to this episode today. We have a full-day nursery based in Marcham, Oxfordshire, and I think you've got another site as well. Kay and her team provide the nurturing environment for children aged between 6 months and 4 years old. Yeah. Supporting both the children and their families through the early years of their lives. So thank you, Kate, for joining us on today's show. It'd be great if you can just kick us off by tell us a little bit more about what you guys offer and how you got into the business of running nurseries, if that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me, David. So, like you said, we work in early years. We care for children from 6 months up to 4 years old. So we're very busy. I mean, the reason I sort of love what we do is because no day is the same where we are. It is completely different every moment of day. You don't know what your customers, which are obviously like the children, are going to be when they come in. And what we do is so important. And I know early years is not always seen as that. And for like 20 years we've been running, we actually keep nurturing all these little minds and forming all those great habits and the impacts on them and empower them to be able to say, this is who I am and this is me, and make that difference when they leave us and move forward in the world. I always say to my teams, like, in this room, we could have the next Prime Minister for, and what we install in them today could make the decisions for our lives in 30, 40 years time. And we have to be very conscious of that. We have such a big impact in the lives of what we do. And I suppose that's why and how we fell into it. We're actually sort of like a mother-daughter team. Okay. So my mum actually worked in early years most of her life, longer than she likes to remember, and then eventually set up her own childminding business back in 2004. It then kept growing and kept getting bigger. And we relocated to Marcham initially in 2007, just with a tiny little nursery, 22 children a day, very small team of about like 7 of us. I officially came on board in 2010, but if you'd asked me when I was younger, I'm never working in early years. I was surrounded by it when I grown up. I worked in it.
I think really worse.
Yeah, all your life. I was like, no, I'm not going to work with children. And then I just was like, oh, I've come back from university. I'll help you out, get the business side set up, the admin side, because that was never my mum's strength. And then I fell for it. I fell in love with it, about what we do, how we nurture them, how we support them, and actually like all the science behind it, all the theories behind it. It's a lot more in depth than I think people always sort of realise. And then we've just grown from there. So in 2020, we moved into a brand new premises in Marcham, doubled the size again up to a 43 place setting. And then this year, opening in May, our second nursery. And within the space of 5 months, that's become the same size as our Marcham. So literally in the last 5 months, we've doubled everything, doubled in size, the number of children we care for. We've got like 80 odd children in today that we coming in and out through our doors. That's 80 families that we're looking after just today alone. I've now got like 43 team members compared to our 6 about like 10, 15 years ago. So it's changed dramatically, which has been very exciting, but yeah, it's definitely grown and changed.
We'll dig into that in a little bit in terms of that sort of journey between, let's say, coming from a sort of team of 6, quite small, to actually being a lot bigger. It's quite a big change, isn't it?
Massive change, absolutely huge change of how you have to sort of like approach everything. I suppose that's been one of our biggest challenges, because we're naturally caring, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
We genuinely care for all our families and all our children, and we do the same for our team, genuinely care for them. And then suddenly go from a small team where, literally we know everything about each other, which I'm not always sure is a good thing, but literally everything about each other, to suddenly having 40 people, that's quite a big difference of getting to know everyone.
Before we dig into that, you mentioned about the early years of children, how important it is on who they become later and stuff. And I'm not sure of the exact sort of data, but there's quite a lot of information to say that what they pick up and learn at those early years has a massive impact on their later life, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, when you talk about it quite a lot, and you hear in sort of like the news, they've just expanded the funding, haven't they, for children, which has been interesting. And the reasoning behind it is because there is a gap, there's a difference between children who have the same opportunities to go to like an private education, I suppose, is what we are, but in early years, compared to those who don't. And you can see the difference in children when they go to school. And it's all about narrowing that gap, so every child has the same opportunities, irrelevant of their background or where they come from.
Okay.
That's why it's so important what we do and how we do it. Early years has changed quite a lot. I think the approach is an exciting time in early years. It's a challenging time, but it's an exciting time. Our reputation has changed. About 10 years ago, everyone used to say to me, oh, you just play with kids all day. I'm like, yeah, we just play with kids all day. That's all we do. We just, building towers with them is just playing with kids, when actually we're supporting their communication development, allowing them to express themselves, understand and regulate their emotions. For the youngest ones, we teach them their physical development. We help them to get those skills to learn to be able to walk. You know, it all starts from that 6 months and just carries on.
And they're just sponges at that age, aren't they?
They are absolute sponges. They pick everything up. Absolutely. I feel like maybe I've had not, I used to have a group of key children. By the time they all left me, their favourite colour was green, which is the same as mine. I'm like, maybe I influenced them a bit too much in that moment. But what we do does have a massive impact, and it stays with them forever. The habits we sort of form, that, you know, that resilience when things don't go your way,
Yeah.
we build that up in early years by, you know, if something hasn't gone right, okay, let's do it again. Creating that growth mindset in them right from that early age helps and supports them as they move through into primary school, then into secondary school, and then just into life. So they have that mindset ready that, okay, I just can't do it yet, but how am I going to learn how to do this better next time?
Yeah, and helping shape their identity, their belief
Absolutely.
system, which is such a big impact on their view of life later on and how they develop
How
later
they
on.
develop, yeah.
Really
And
cool.
exposing them to like things that they wouldn't normally see, and different types of people and communities and cultures and different viewpoints as well. That has a big impact too, in shaping them, their little minds, into how they're going to respond to different people when they're out and about in the big world.
I can see why you're so passionate about it and why you decided to come back into it after thinking you weren't going to go down that route.
Yeah, so yeah.
So thinking as sort of primarily as a business owner now, sort of
Yeah.
like audience of local business owners, you know, over the years, you mentioned some challenges earlier, but what in terms of business, what would you say the biggest challenges that you've had over the years as a business owner, and what sort of things do you do to overcome them?
Yeah, I suppose the biggest challenges we've sort of had is sort of finding the right team. What we do is so people orientated. Our team size has to be so large to be able to care for the children, because we're under ratio. So even like we've got, you think of a school, it has 2 teachers for 30 children, we'd have to have 10 for under 2. So our team and finding the right team has always been the biggest challenge, but also like keeping them, ensuring that we're retaining them, that they're not disappearing. A lot in our like sector of what we do in early years, it's known for having a massive recruitment crisis at the moment. But this year alone, I mean, I've recruited 21 people somehow. So even though we have these challenges, it's keeping them there and making them feel like what we do is really important. And that's always the biggest challenge, because what we do can be, we're very caring. It's very personal what we do. It's not, we're not just selling something and then that's it. We're not going to see them again. We're so involved in these families' lives that when something happens to the family, it does impact on us. And managing the well-being of the team and keeping them motivated has always been sort of like one of our biggest challenges. We've had issues also in the past where we've had issues like with building structure and moving from a small nursery to a big nursery, and having to change how we approach things has been one of our massive challenges as well.
Yeah.
Thinking about someone we were so hands-on. We were in the rooms with the children. We were literally doing everything. Everything's in my head. I can do everything. It's all in there. Now I have to take that step back and trying to sort of explain the challenges that we have and why we do things the way we do things. That's always our hardest challenge that we have in place.
Okay. Just talk about team for a second. It's
Mm.
interesting you mentioned about recruiting 21 people
Mm.
this year somehow. You know, it's a common challenge for a lot of businesses at the moment, that when I talk to business owners, quite often finding the right team, retaining the right team, attracting the right talent is a big challenge. Now, clearly, you've had some success there. So you're doing something where you've got a different mindset to other people. What is it that you think that sort of sets you apart from other businesses and allows you to find the right people and gives you that sort of opportunity to attract the right people?
Think it's maybe the approach we take when I'm looking at recruiting. I mean, we have to have a set qualification in what we do, but I don't look at, people always go to me, oh, I haven't got this and I haven't got that. I'm like, I don't even look at your CV. I meet you. I want to get to know you. I'll get a feel from you when I see you, and just check that they match our values of who we are.
Yeah.
And are they going to be like the same type of person as me in the room with the children? Are they going to be caring with them? Are they going to be flexible to the needs of the children when they're in there, and also to us? And do they have that same drive and ambition that we have about nurturing them in their quest for knowledge, and that constant nurture to shape them into great individuals to when they leave us? And I think that's sort of our approach. We take it very differently. We don't just do like sort of I know we put job adverts out and things like that, but a lot of what we do is like recruitment events and actually get people to come in
Okay.
and see us, come in and meet us, come in and talk to us. So we take it a bit more relaxed, I suppose, is the way that we do it, and allow them to come and just be themselves.
Yeah.
You usually get a feel of someone, don't you, when you walk in, whether you know they're going to be great for your team or actually, or I'm not sure that's the type of person that we're sort of looking for. So that first interaction of face to face for me is the most crucial bit. And I've learned in the past, I can have someone where he's like, they've got a degree, they're a qualified teacher, they've got all like the highest levels of qualification. And I put them in a room and it's been like, oh my days, what is that?
And I guess creating that friendly environment, which is more likely what they'll be when they actually 3 months later after their,
Yeah,
initial that's more likely what the real person is going to be like.
real person's going to be,
You're
yeah.
going to see that, you're going to get that click or that sort of realization earlier, aren't you?
Yeah. And sometimes it's looking past that, I think. I think sometimes people I'm known for being a project person. I pick people out and I'm like, oh, there's something hiding under
Okay.
there that I can see is there. And I've got a girl, she's been with us 10 years. And when she first came to join us, she barely spoke. But like when I watched her with the children, I was like, oh, she's got something there.
Yeah.
And then it's just giving them that time and supporting them and caring with them, being part of, it's really corny what we say. It's like we are a family. I'm heavily
Yeah.
involved in all like their personal lives. I want to know what's going on. And I'm a firm believer in what we do, in the environment we create is like, I hate the saying, oh, you leave your baggage at the door. I'm like, no, you bring your baggage in with us and we unpack it together. And we just create that nurturing, supportive environment for them, which is why when we like to meet them, because we want to know how
Yeah.
can we help them? How can we nurture them? How can we shape them into being the best versions of early as educators and also in their lives and support them and influence them to be better people as well?
That's really good. There's a lot of lessons there in terms of, you investing in your people and really congruently doing it, as
Yeah.
opposed to just some words on a document and things like that. But also trying to identify the intrinsic motivation for people to really actually bring out what matters to them. Because the
Yeah.
old days of the carrot and the stick and kind of there's your job, there's
Oh,
your bonus, there's your pay packet.
that does not
It's
work. I have that
gone, isn't
argument all
it?
the time. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
that argument all the time. People are like, it's not about the money. I know there is bits about the money, and we all have bills that we need to pay, but especially in
Yeah.
our industry, none of us do it for the money. We do it because of our passion and our whys and our reasons that we want to work in areas and the enjoyment we get from it when a child takes their first steps or says our names for the first time, and that we care for them because nobody knows how much you care until you actually put the action in and do something. And it's trying to create that environment constantly. And as we've got bigger, that's been a bit harder
Yeah.
to do. I can't invest all my time with 40 people like I could back in the past, like 10, 15 years ago, just like 6 or 7 of us.
Yeah.
So it's trying to then create our sort of like our management and leadership team
Yeah.
within our business to then have that same approach. And I think that's always the key is finding the people in your sort of like people that you lean on as the business leader who run your day to day,
Yeah.
that they have that same approach to you as so if you step out, they're running it in a similar way that you would run it. And that's the real key bit that you
And
need
they've
to
got
focus on.
space to be able to do those things and freedom
Yeah,
to be able to make those decisions. Really good, really good.
yeah.
Can see why you break. You are bucking the trend in terms of the recruitment by being in a position to be able to hire 21 people in 1 year. It's pretty cool
Yeah.
environment to be part of, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong, we have our stress points. I mean, September in early years is always a stressful month because
Sure.
loads of children have left, loads of children have just joined who have never been anywhere, and it's all a bit sort of like, oh, we've got loads of new children and they're trying to settle in. So September, we know this time of year is our transition sort of time, and we know it's quite a high pressure time for us in our sort of industry and what we do. So
Yeah.
it's just making sure that we're communicating that and making them aware of it all the time, that it's not always going to be like they sort of don't know they're settling in and they're struggling. Give it a few weeks and everything will calm down, and just making sure that we can support the team through that.
Yeah, and there's seasonality to it, isn't there? So there's
Yeah.
kind of sort of it comes around every year, but it feels like a shock at the time. But
It does feels like a massive shock. You have like a load of like older preschoolers, and then they go off to school, and then you're like, oh, we've got to sterilize again, or we've got to adapt and
yeah.
change how we approach things every time of year around this point. And no matter how much we plan for it, it always still surprises us. And I don't know why, because I've been doing it 20 years, and I'm like, remember when we had this 2 years ago? Oh yeah, that's what's going on.
It's all good fun. Keeps it interesting though. So
It does.
In terms of you, then your motivation, your sort of drive and enthusiasm, you're very clearly a very passionate individual. What keeps you motivated? What keeps you driven on this entrepreneurial journey?
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. There's been moments I sit and I think, why am I doing this? It's just so much, it becomes your life. But it's that making difference piece for me, but not just for the children, but for the team. Like seeing my team just grow personally and just delivering who we are and just supporting them in their own lifestyle, for them to be able to turn around and just be empowered to be themselves and authentically themselves and give them those supports to help them through when they're suffering with their anxiety or their stress or their depression, and then suddenly see them go out of that darkness into the light. That's for me, that's my big sort of like trigger. And if I'm not making a difference, then I wouldn't be sat here doing it.
Has that sort of focus on your team and that sort of motivation, has that shifted over the years? Is that something that sort of, as you've got bigger, it's become more important to you, or has it always been?
I think it's always been there. I've always been about the team and helping and supporting the team. That's always been the bit I've enjoyed the most. As much as I enjoy the children, I really love supporting the team and getting them through. Our apprentices are my favourite things in the world, supporting them to gain up through their qualifications. And it's the backbone of our structure, is like our industry is very much known that people go off on maternity leave quite often because we are predominantly female. So we always have this influx of apprentices every year coming in and developing them and growing up. And that development for the team is just, it's been there from the start. I've always been about learning. We must keep learning if we want to keep improving, not just
Keep growing.
ourselves, but early as we need to keep learning, we need to keep changing.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the same nursery as anyone else. I want us to be different. I don't look and compare us to any other like businesses in the same sector. I want us to be slightly different. So I need to keep learning to support them to keep learning. And I introduce them to different theories that they don't often learn throughout their early years qualification. So I'll introduce them to the Chin paradox, for example, to
Yeah.
explain about how like 2-year-olds struggle to deal with their emotions, and we've got to build up the computer programs
Yeah.
through the experiences that they have with us. And they all and just introduce them and show them different ways and perspectives. And it's just, for me, it's the most wonderful and rewarding thing that we do when you see someone who struggled with it about 6 months ago, and then I walk back into the room and see them and they've mastered it. It all clicks and they've just dealt with the situation perfectly. And you're like, oh, they got it.
It's a
They
really healthy set of values to have because, as leaders, one of our main roles is actually helping our teams to be able to develop and grow. And ultimately, as you know, the business will be taken further by your teams than you can
Yeah,
ever take it on your own. So it's so crucial to have that high performing team around you. It's really good. Well done.
absolutely. It's the most essential, especially because of what we do with, we're so people orientated.
Yeah.
We need that team there that can take the ownership and take the charge. Don't get me wrong, there are I've made mistakes along the way, plenty of mistakes with some people, and like not always being able to deliver it, but that's always the focus of getting back to, is like, how do we support the team to grow further? And like you say, that then supports the nursery. And that's how we managed to open the second one, because I had Marcham absolutely running without me, and I sat here and I was like, I'm bored now, I need a new
Time
challenge.
for a new challenge.
Oh,
Yeah. Very good.
yeah, yeah. And
Very
then here
good.
we are.
Very good. So, growth. You've had some exceptional growth over the last few years, and you've got this new nursery. What's the future hold? What's the long-term plans? Where do you want to take it?
I'd like to keep growing, to be honest with you. I want to keep spreading our nurturing approach to early years and making a difference. That's what I would like to do, is then to have like more nurseries that take this approach that we have and just continue to keep growing. Because the more nurseries we have, the more families we have, the more impact we have on their lives, and we're making a bigger difference, which is my big why. So the more we can do that, that's the future.
Very good. It's been really interesting to listen to your story. I could talk to you all day about it. It's a
I could
really
talk all day about it. Once I get going, I don't stop.
it's a really inspirational story, certainly around the team and building a successful high performance team. It's such a challenge that a lot of business owners really struggle with. They get to that sort of point where it does become a different job from being owning a job
Yeah.
with a business to becoming a business owner with a team that run the business. It's a very
Yeah.
different.
And it's not, I mean, like, I feel like we're at it again where we've opened the second one.
Yeah.
I think I made the mistake of being in there and being the manager for a few months and leading, when really I think if I looked back on it, I should have put someone in that role and be more of a
Yeah.
supportive role. So I've learned from that actually, we need to create the team first and build it up when we open up our next one. So it's all been part of our learning moving forward and how we should continue.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's making sure that team's there and has that supportive network, and just in particularly like the management team as well, that they then filter it
Yeah,
filter it down to all the rest in their team.
it's going to be an exciting one to watch.
Yes.
So where can our listeners go to find out a little bit more about the nurseries and what you're up to at the moment?
So you can check us out on all the social media platforms, Little Angels Childcare Group. We have one for Marcham and we have one for Southmore. We also have a website, which is www.littleangelschildcaregroup.co.uk. And that's where you'll find most of the information sort of about us and what we're up to.
Very good. Kate, thank you very much for
Thank you,
joining
David.
us.